Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. I just recorded the whole intro and I wasn't even recording, so do I repeat myself? Probably not. To be fair, it was a pretty bad intro as per usual by me, but yeah. I'm actually quite happy I wasn't recording because I wouldn't want to post what I just couldn't speak basically, as usual. But yeah, the video is 8 words Britain and America used very differently, part 2 by Lost in the Pond. And what I was saying is I realised there was a part 1 that I've not actually seen, and there's also part 3, part 4, part 5 that maybe I'll react to in the near future. But yeah, this was the one that popped up for me. And I mean, when it comes to that sort of use of words, when we speak the same language, obviously, it's American English and British English or whatever. But the fact that there's the same words that we have, but they can mean completely different things, it's just something that I've always found quite intriguing, really. But I can't really use examples of what words I'm thinking of when I say this, but I just know it is interesting. And when he will say the words, I know I'll sort of be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. But yeah, we're going to jump into it. Quick shout out to my Instagram and my Twitter. Had a tough few days, and I mean, I say a tough few days. If you know, you know. Instagram, links in the description if you're interested in that, seeing what I went through, basically, the aftermath of the pain I was going through. And as well as that, links to my Twitter and my Patreon as well. Links all there if there's interested. But let's just jump into it, man. Let's see what Lawrence has for us today.
Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to words. And not just any old words. I mean, living in the United States now for well over a decade, I've encountered my fair share of word differences, right? And you can sometimes get very tripped up on them. But sometimes, ever so occasionally, there are instances where each country has the same word, but that same word has a different meaning. And of course, we looked at this in a video back in the day.
I can think of one. Chips. Obviously, chips here are like fries in the US. Chips in the US are like crisps here.
This is the sequel. And, you know, since many of us are probably experiencing cabin fever at this point, I thought I'd inject a sense of outdoorsiness to some of these words, as well as some sweet treats. And so, without further delay, here are 8 words with totally different meanings in Britain and America. Part 2.
Zip.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay, zip. Who knew that this had a different meaning on either side of the pond?
So in the UK, or in England, a zip's like what you use to undo your jacket. And a zip is like a zip code in the US, right?
I sort of did, instinctively, or at the very least before moving here, I did know about the American usage of zip. That, of course, is the equivalent of what in Britain we call a postcode. So a zip code, of course, is the number assigned to the region in which a group of houses might be contained, or a Walmart. But in Britain, that ain't how we use zip. Zip is, it's sort of an alternative to Velcro, right? Or anything else that can help you fasten your jacket.
Kind
it's
of.
that fastening device.
Kind of. So what do you call a zip in the US then? Like when you have a coat and you zip it up. What the hell? What do you call it?
On a purse or a tracksuit top, right? And in America, you know that very similarly as a zipper. I would have demonstrated it right here on this video, but I stopped using zips in the 90s, except in other places. Places where you might also find a certain type of strap.
Jock.
Just so we're clear, I don't wear one of those. I don't wear underwear. But the word jock, of course, does have different meanings on both sides of the pond. So as far as I can tell, in America, a jock is a sort of sports person, or even an athlete themselves, usually at the collegiate level.
I thought a jock was like a sports person who was like a bully. Obviously, I got that wrong. I thought it was like a sporty person who was really good at sports and into their sports. That just bullied people.
Right, or at school. And they're usually depicted in TV shows as complete douchebags.
Okay, kind of, yeah.
That's an American English phrase. But as the term, as I read in the dictionary, does apply to sports enthusiasts too, I think that makes me a jock. Am I a jock or am I a member of the Glee Club? In England, we call those people hooligans or sports fans for short. Whereas the word jock, as well as being a shortening of disc jockey, like it is in the United States, can also mean a Scottish person. I can't remember if that's an insult because, you know, being from England, I've never met a Scottish person. And so just to be clear, I'm not using the term to describe Scots. I'm just merely pointing out that some people do. Sean, can you let us know in the comments below if you're watching this video if you think it's fine to use that term? Meanwhile, while we're on the subject of sports and Scottish people, that brings us on to our next entry.
Pitch.
Pitch?
football pitch, and in the US, what would a
What
pitch?
does pitch have to do with sport, you might be asking? Well, it's all a case of understanding that pitch isn't just about high and low. The word pitch as a noun and a verb crops up in sports circles in both Britain and the United States of America. So in Britain, when you're talking particularly about football or rugby or something that's on a kind of big field like that, we refer to that field as a pitch. Whereas in America, that would be referred to quite sensibly as a field.
I remember when I first started looking into American sports, and I was calling the American football fields pitches, and boy, it pissed people off. And it makes sense because it is a completely different term. But I just remember I was just so confused. I thought they were all called the same thing. I just thought a grass sort of patch with white lines and like numbers or whatever it is to sort of signal different things in the sport. I thought they were always called pitches, but from what I learned, they weren't. And yeah, it's just interesting.
Or gridiron, where you play gridiron. I might have made a bit of a hash of that reference because I don't understand American sports very well, including baseball, and that is where the word pitch predominantly shows up as a sports verb or noun to mean, you know, he threw the first pitch. They'll often leave that to famous people like, you know, presidents who have no sports acumen whatsoever and generally look quite silly. But whether it's football or baseball or Britain or America, the grass is not always greener on the other side.
He's leaning into each one. God.
I've been enjoying all of those videos over the last few weeks of people in quarantine in their gardens, right? And I felt a little bit envious because I don't have a garden. I have a car park or parking lot. Now, I think this difference is pretty well known, but if you're an American and you're watching this and you're confused by my use of the word garden, we use garden to describe what you refer to as yard, only ours are a bit, you know, smaller. I just wanted to explain this just in case you were wondering, why are all those British parents letting their kids run around the vegetable patch, right? Because in America, the word garden can be used to describe that very thing. So what we in Britain refer to as an allotment, a vegetable patch, is what you would call perhaps a garden here. What? It might be a publicly owned area or, you know, a private section that you can just go and plant your, you know, your carrots and your cucumbers, although I'm not sure why you do that. They're terrible. And when I was a kid, I have this distinct memory of sitting in at least one of these and eating from our next entry. To be clear, I'm talking about the yard. I wouldn't ever do this inside an allotment. That'd be weird.
Hamper.
I love me a good hamper, I do. That was hamper in Cornish, so I won't ever do that again. The noun form dates back to about the 14th century when it just meant, you know, a large basket. And both British English and American English took cues from that and sort of made it more specific. So in Britain, when we talk about a hamper, we're talking about a picnic basket, hence why I had one in my garden. Is that weird? Maybe you're supposed to go to a park. Not right now, garden's the perfect place. And we also use the word in the context of a Christmas hamper when your mum magically procures a basket of Christmas food. So was that maybe just my family? I don't know. And in America, a hamper is also a basket. And if you're British and you're thinking of moving to America like I once did, don't start putting food in your mother-in-law's hamper, right? You'll get into a lot of trouble for that because a hamper in America is where you keep the dirty clothes. It's a laundry basket, right? Which is funny because those types of hampers can also end up in the garden/yard, particularly if you're using one of these.
It's going into each one pegs to hang up your clothes on the washing line.
Peg might also be short for Peggy on both sides of the Atlantic, but in British English...
There's also a very complete different term that you could use peg for, but I'm not going to get into that. I don't know if that's an English or an American term. I feel like it's more of a slang term.
A peg is the implement you use to hang up your clothes on the washing line, right? Which, when you think about it, serves a similar purpose to other types of peg, like those that you would stick in the ground when you go camping to hold your tent up. Never try it without those. I've done it in a storm, and I came back with just my underpants. In other words, I was naked. We've already established I don't wear underpants. And in America, those implements are usually called a clothespin. So how do Americans use peg then? Well, they'll use it in the aforementioned camping context or other types of pegs as well, but they will use peg apparently in a baseball context. We've come full circle. We've done a home run on the baseball references. I've never heard this term before. I looked this up, but apparently it is a type of baseball throw, much like a pitch. So you could put a pitch and a peg together, and what have you got? A pitch or a pig. I don't throw pigs, not at baseball or anywhere. But in America, it can also be a verb, right? So, for example, Lawrence, you're a YouTube sensation, right? I mean, personality. I didn't peg you as an introvert. These are the kind of comments I get all the time. Just substitute in the word genius and we're away. Anyway, let's say that we open that hamper, right? The British kind, not the American kind. And we pull out all of the savoury food. We have our lunch. What's left over is dessert. On a good day, it might even be one of these.
Cookie. Okay,
I'm
cookie
eating what the
biscuit,
Americans would
yeah.
call a cookie. And does this have cinnamon in it?
It's a snickerdoodle. What do you think?
Oh my god, it's horrible. Hey, pass me that water. Thanks. And some of them taste better than others. And, you know, basically, how would you describe this? It's a small flat-baked cake, right? And they come in all kinds of varieties. We have them on both sides of the pond, except we don't use the word cookie. Actually, that's not quite true. We do use the word cookie.
We do. A biscuit's like sort of... I can't explain. A cookie's like the sort of home... I can't really explain it. With like sort of chocolate chips in there. Obviously, cookies don't just have chocolate chips. But that's the best way I can describe. I'm just going to search it up. I mean, people probably know, but I can't really describe it myself. Cookie. Cookie. No, not cookie. I used to love this game. I used to play this game like crazy. Cookie. Yeah, like one of these. Obviously, you can have different fillings, not just chocolate. Obviously, anything. I love cookies, man. I love cookies so much. And obviously, biscuits. Wait, how do you spell biscuit? There. Biscuits are like sort of these ones, or these sort of things. These are all like biscuits. This is like a cookie biscuit. This is like a cookie, to be honest. I don't know why that's there. What the hell is this? Biscuit brownies? Like these, there we go. Like chocolate digestives. I don't know what you would call them in the US. Bourbons, jammy dodgers. Ah, mate. That's heaven right there. That's heaven in a picture.
Specifically if we're referring to a chocolate chip cookie, or if you're Scottish. Some Scottish people, I'm looking at you again, Sean, might use the word cookie to describe a bun. I looked this up today, and that particular usage actually predates all other usages. It's just that it doesn't look to have given rise, that's a cooking pun, to the usage that we know. It looks like actually cookie in the American sense came from a Dutch word after, the Dutch settlers came to the United States. Both are cooking words, both have the same spelling, and both appear to have been baked on a different tray. But typically speaking, what you in America call a cookie, we British call a biscuit, which is its own entry. That's right, this wasn't just a disgusting cinnamon-based cookie, it's also a disgusting cinnamon-based biscuit, and that's because that's what we call a cookie in the United Kingdom. And I think when I moved over here, I thought that was...
Wait, what? Oh, I've just learned it. So cookies in the US are like what we call biscuits, but then cookies in the US, he explained it, didn't he? Okay, I think I blurred over that.
Would be the same, even though it's since materialised that this is quite a well-known difference, I think. Perhaps what I believed was that Americans referred, like we do, to the chocolate chip cookie as a cookie and everything else was a biscuit. Not the case. But to confuse people like me, and probably just me, Americans use the word biscuit in a different way. But again, it's still connected to food. I'm waxing nostalgic now because I remember the first time I encountered this difference. It was in a Red Lobster. And for those of you that don't know what a Red Lobster is, i.e. perhaps British people, it's a seafood chain in the United States. And, I ordered fish and chips because you can get that there. It's not what you would find necessarily in the fish and chip shops back home, and it's definitely minus mushy peas. But one of the things that does come up at Red Lobster is that you receive complimentary biscuits before the meal. And you're probably thinking, that's weird, a dessert before the meal? That makes me want to dessert before the meal. And that's not what it is. A biscuit in the United States is savoury, right? And fluffy too. Think of a savoury scone. It's covered in salt, it might even have garlic or cheese, and the rule is you eat about 4 of them before the meal. That's my rule. And I must say, I'd much rather have one of those than one of these. Don't do that to my taste buds again, especially while we're on air, because that could get embarrassing. Unbelievable.
That's a bougie looking water.
That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below your favourite words that have different...
Shout out Lawrence, man, of course. Every time. I just love seeing these videos. I just find it interesting. Again, there's so many more. If this goes down well, I'll definitely be doing a reaction to them ones as well. But yeah, let's just see some of the comments. Never trust anyone who doesn't love snickerdoodles. What is a snickerdoodle? The fuck is this? What's in them? It's like a cookie made with butter or oil, sugar, salt, and flour, rather than cinnamon. I mean, you can't go wrong with cinnamon to me, man. These look good. These look like they would be quite chewy. I love me like a chewy sort of cookie, man, or biscuit or whatever. Doesn't look too bad to be honest, but each to their own, right? So some Brits must be confused and like disgusted when Americans talk about biscuits and gravy. So do British web pages have biscuits instead of cookies? Zip is also less commonly nothing, as in zip, zilch, or zero. Oh well, didn't know that. In the US, not wearing underwear is going command. I've never not wore underwear, man. I think there was like a few times in high school, not high school, in primary school I did it. But there's like, oh, I'm not even gonna say it. I don't think this happened to me, but I think I got scarred for life. Because you know, like sometimes you'd go to school and because people don't have uniforms in the US. In the UK, you have uniforms, so you have set trousers that you wear, and sometimes you'd have like rip a little hole in your trousers without knowing, and the next day you go to school, you've got a hole in your trousers, and you're not wearing boxers. Oh no, what's going on? What's going to happen here? Oh god, I don't think it happened to me. I hope it didn't. I don't actually know. But I feel like I remember it happening to other people or someone else. And I was just scarred for life for a bit. I was like, oh god, I cannot do that. I cannot do. Imagine going to school, wearing trousers with holes in them because you didn't know, and you're not wearing boxers. Oh mate, it's gone wrong if that's happened to you. Where I come from, a laundry basket has handles and no lid, but a laundry hamper does have a lid. I'm glad Brits say cookie when talking about chocolate chip cookies because it'd just be too weird to grow up with the biscuit ones. That's a good point. That's a very good point. But you hopefully enjoy this one. Again, more Lost in the Pond on the way. Just suggest the videos you want to see in future. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.